welcome back inside the Now Morning Show. We told you guys that today is the International Day for World Indigenous People across the world, according to the UN, and we're going to focus here in Trinidad and Tobago on our Indigenous people. And I want to welcome this morning the Chief of the Santa Rosa Indigenous Peoples, Ricardo Barath. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning.
How are you
Sato
doing?
Kasakabo Mabrika.
Yeah, to translate that for me, you can start so.
Good day, Sato Kasakabo, Sato Morocco, good morning, Mabrika, welcome.
Hey,
Nice.
Sato, morning.
I feel like we need to have a whole show where you come and educate us and give us
I was thinking
how
the
we're going to
same
break down the
thing.
language and teach us a little bit about the indigenous languages.
Certainly, certainly.
All right, so tell me, how do you guys celebrate, do you celebrate World Indigenous Peoples Day, first of all?
Yes, certainly we do. But of course, you know, we are in the pandemic, so everything is very low-key. But previously, we have had seminars and we have had international speakers at UTT. We have celebrated it last year. It is exactly 1 year ago since the Honorable Prime Minister visited our site, where we had an event. Although we were in COVID, it was not as prominent as it is now. So we did have a greater celebration. And years before that, we have celebrated it in different ways. So we do celebrate the World Indigenous Day. We have visited Suriname on the 9th of August, because actually today is a holiday in Suriname for the indigenous peoples of that country.
Oh, that's very interesting. So what is the plan to celebrate today, this year?
Well, this year, as I said, is very low-key. Actually, we had a visit yesterday on the site. That is the eve of the Indigenous Peoples Day, which is today, with our Member of Parliament and the Honorable Minister of Public Utilities, where we raised the issues of the utilities for the site, electricity and water. And they made a commitment yesterday to work with us to see in getting those very important utilities to the site. So that is one. Today, we expect this morning a visit from the High Commissioner of Canada, because, you know, Canada regards the indigenous peoples very much. And following that, we expect another visit from the members of the National Trust of Trinidad and Tobago. And then later today, we plan to visit the oldest member in our community, Mr. Dominic Campo of Calvary, who celebrates his 100th birthday today.
Wow.
And actually was the guy who gave me my first haircut as a child.
Well, happy birthday to him, and you can send him our love and our regards as well.
Certainly, certainly.
How many indigenous people sites are there? You said I thought you said sites, as in plural.
There are several sites across Trinidad and Tobago. Of course, our site that we have selected for the village is a little northwest of the Calvary Hill. Calvary Hill was known as the last settlement of the indigenous peoples of Santa Rosa. Of course, it has changed drastically today with the older heads dying, people moving out, new people coming in, and so our site is not too far from that original space. But throughout Trinidad and Tobago, there are several sites. In the south, there are several sites where you can find artifacts and where you know from history, historical information, where indigenous peoples settled. The Banwari site is another important one. So it is not only Arima, it is throughout Trinidad. In the Lupino, La Pastora Valley, in the Cora Valley. Actually, Cora was the hub of activity for indigenous peoples when they moved from the coastline inland.
Right.
That in the early days was a major space of activity for indigenous peoples.
Very interesting.
The Red House.
Is there a community?
Our seat of parliament.
Yeah.
That was a village of the indigenous peoples. Hence, the amount of remains that were found there, both human and other material artifacts.
Yeah.
And that area too was a village of our first peoples.
Do all the communities stay in touch? Do you guys, constantly communicate with each other to make sure that everybody has the things needed or whatever the case may be?
Well, not exactly. From time to time, if there is a major event, we will have the other areas, people from the other areas interacting with us, yes, but it is not something that is what I will say, that is regular. It is not a regular meeting for us.
Yeah.
Everyday thing.
All right.
Because they would have their own agendas, and Santa Rosa would have its own agenda, which we focus on, and we push our separate agendas.
Mr. Barrett, good morning to you. This is Natalie here. I am curious because, you know, one of the things I see over the years since I've been living here, 11 years, is that somehow, when we talk about the First People, somehow we only connect that to Santa Rosa. And, you know,
Yes.
now you're talking to me about, you know, villages and different people across different communities. But why aren't we, even to this point, to seeing that kind of is it inclusivity? Is that word, the word?
Community.
No, no, I can explain. I can explain it. Santa Rosa was the last mission to be established by the Spanish for indigenous peoples. So they brought in indigenous peoples from the encomiendas of Arauca, Cora, and Tacarigua to Arima. And because of the Santa Rosa festival, which is a Catholic feast and a Catholic celebration, the indigenous peoples added their own flavor and celebration to that Catholic feast and made it a major celebration for indigenous peoples. So much so that in the early days, peoples from all over the country flocked to Arima for the Santa Rosa celebrations. The Santa Rosa Carib community is the community that was recognized by Cabinet in 1990 as the legitimate voice of indigenous peoples for Trinidad and Tobago. And that was so because at that time, there were no other organized groups. All the focus was on Santa Rosa. And Santa Rosa is the community that has been lobbying and keeping the traditions from way back then to now. It is only because of the work of Santa Rosa and our lobby and agitation over the years that interest in other areas was sparked and that they now begin to form themselves and organize themselves. So that is why the focus is so much on Santa Rosa.
Yeah.
But that is not to say that indigenous peoples do not live in other parts of the country.
Right. Well, maybe we need to see that cohesive inclusivity because, you know, we don't want, you know, especially as we're celebrating the Indigenous Peoples Day, that we don't want, you know, pockets of people to be left out because if we don't have that, then really and truly, what are we celebrating?
Listen, the theme of this year's World Indigenous Peoples is that no one should be left behind, but you must understand, and I want to make this absolutely clear, that where our differences lie as it relates to other groups, their demands and agendas are sometimes seen as impossible, and that compromises or hinders Santa Rosa from going forward. So we make our program clear, and we feel that our program and our agitation for advancement is well in line in keeping what the country can afford. And some of the demands of the other groups are way too exorbitant and will stymie the progress
What are
of
some
Santa
of those
Rosa.
demands, Mr. Barrett? What are some of those demands?
That the other groups are making?
Yes.
I don't want to, I'm not sure I should go into that now because you see, it has the potential of causing more controversy, but I will give you an example.
Right.
There is a group that has originated in South in recent years that is asking for space. Space as they claim that the San Fernando Hill, which we all know is a sacred site of the First Peoples, especially the Warraws. They want the whole hill. They want all the lands from there going way back, I don't know where, for First Peoples. We do not have First Peoples to occupy all that space, number one. And we have to recognize and be reasonable that Trinidad and Tobago is not the same place as when only the First Peoples occupy it. We have different peoples occupying. We have greater numbers. You have to be practical and take these things into consideration. Look, the indigenous peoples of Arima owned by law 1,320 acres of land under the Spanish. And that was all taken away under the British. And we are not agitating to get back 1,320 because we realize that that is an impossibility. So we were granted 25 acres. We feel it is not enough, but still we are satisfied. We have taken that and we have started our development. So what I'm saying that the other groups have to ask for big things to build their capacity in reasonable proportions. That is our difference.
Mr. Barrett, do you advise them at all? Do you advise the other groups on how to approach?
We try. There was a cabinet committee established that included all the groups, but we cannot go forward because their calls and their demands are too, what is the word I'm looking for, too stringent at this time, and you cannot move like that. You have to take things as you see them in reasonable proportions, and you develop yourself as you go along. And that is our difference. But other than that, yes, we support them. We would like to see them develop in their different areas. The same thing we are doing in Arima. We have promised to assist in assist them in those areas, but somehow they feel that we are too soft and we make too much of a light demand, and they are asking for more, and I cannot identify myself with it.
All right. I think you're sounding like you agree with the philosophy of eat little and live long.
That's certainly what I'm trying to say.
All right.
Amen.
Well, Mr. Ricardo Barrett, I want to thank you so much for joining us this morning. And, happy World Indigenous Peoples Day to you and to the entire community.
Thank you for giving us the opportunity to share, but I would like to add something, if you will allow me. You see, we have been asking for more meaningful recognition. Look at when the other major ethnic groups have their celebrations. You see so much compliment through the newspapers, through the radio. If you did not do this, and if we did not make an effort to tell our own story in the newspapers today, there will not be a word of Indigenous peoples. And this is what we mean. We are still somewhat invisible, and we need more visibility and attention by the authorities to make progress, because the Indigenous theme for this year is leaving no one behind.
All right. Well, we're definitely not leaving you behind, and we're going to make sure that you come down to show us how to speak the language and do some of the rituals and things like that, right?
We're going to need those lovely outfits
I will be
too.
more than happy to do that. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Yes,
right,
and we're
Chief,
going to need those